Welcome on into the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and it is time for my big 3.0 mock draft. This is the big one. The draft will be this week, Thursday. I'm hoping to release this on Sunday. So I hope you are having a good weekend or had a good weekend if this is released a little bit later. As you can see on the screen, I did write an article through my 3.0 mock draft. There are 4 rounds in this mock draft today. I will be flying through the first round. Well, I'll be going relatively quickly through the first round. I'm going to talk about a few things as we go through that. 4th round, we're just going to fly through. That was kind of a bonus, so stick around for that at the end. And throughout the 2nd and the 3rd round, I'll be going relatively quickly, but at the end of each team's draft, I will have a bookmark for when that team's draft, when I'm covering the end of their draft, and I'll just do a quick recap of the total draft. You'll see it on screen. So as you can see, I go through, I have, paragraph depending on the pick, different sizes, talking about the picks, 1st, 2nd round into the 3rd round, even smaller, shorter paragraphs, but there you go, there's the general idea. All right, let's run through this first round. A lot of things that I could want to say, but also a lot of these picks, especially at the top of the draft, are things that I've been doing, some of them since January. So no big surprises, not a whole lot new to add, but also you can see what I had to say about this stuff in the article for these picks, especially. Went through it in, somewhat good detail with a lengthier paragraph for a lot of these. But Tennessee going Cam Ward, Cleveland Browns going Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter going to the New York Giants, Will Campbell going to New England. I just think that that's the route that they got to go. New York, New England. Personally, I would trade back if I were these guys. But I don't think that that's the most likely route either, because for New England, I don't know that anybody's really going to have great offers to come up to pick 4. And for the New York Giants, I don't know if those offers will be strong enough to get them off of the pick. Maybe not. We'll talk. Basically, for the New York Giants, I would rather move back to wherever, pick Shedeur Sanders up there or your quarterback of choice while acquiring more capital. And then Will Campbell, too, I'd rather get him at pick 6, if that was possible even, but just probably not going to happen. Mason Graham going to Jacksonville, Ashton Jeanty going to Las Vegas Raiders, Armand Membu going to the New York Jets, Jalen Walker going to Carolina. I mean, that's, if you're new to my channel, if this is the first time that you've seen anything, you can call it chalk, but once again, I've been doing all this stuff, some of it since before it was chalk, so it's just what it is. These are, I think, the most likely outcomes for the top 8 picks. Now we're going to start to get into some territory where I don't know that these are all the most likely outcomes. So pick 9 went Mike Green, and actually for pick 9, there was a potential trade offer that came in from San Francisco. I had them offering pick 11 and 100 to come up to take Tyler Warren ahead of the Chicago Bears. New Orleans didn't accept it because New Orleans was afraid that Chicago might take Mike Green if they were to have moved back. And for pick 100, they just said, no, we'll just take our guy. We don't want to miss out on him. So they take Mike Green in this scenario. I don't know if that's the most likely scenario for New Orleans. They're in kind of not the best spot of this draft at pick 9. Probably nobody wanted to move up there. Maybe, in this situation, I did have somebody moving up, but with Mike Green available in this scenario, I had them thinking that he's worth it, but they might not even think that Mike Green's, maybe they would trade back if something like that came in from San Francisco. Miami Dolphins, Calvin Banks Jr., pick that I kind of regret already, but look, I think Miami taking Malachi Starks at pick 13, to me, almost feels like most likely scenario. In this scenario, looking at the board, I had Miami get a little bit afraid that the San Francisco 49ers would take Calvin Banks. They wanted him. It's the tackles quickly die out in this draft class, so Calvin Banks Jr. is going to be somebody who will be coveted more by Shanahan systems, I believe, for the potential based on his mobility and size. They love those kinds of guys, so I think that Miami would think that, San Francisco's probably going to take him. Let's move up. They do. For this trade, in order to move up to pick 10, Miami gave up pick 98 with, of course, pick 13. At pick 11, Tyler Warren going to San Francisco is the most likely scenario for San Francisco. I don't know about that. It's the route that I ended up going here in a predictive mock draft, though, so we'll say it with conviction. Tyler Warren to San Francisco. Plenty of reasons why that could be. Tedderell McMillan going to Dallas. And then I didn't really love this trade back in terms of, did the board look any better for Chicago at pick 13 than it did at 10? I mean, not really. Obviously, I had them being okay with not getting Tyler Warren. by moving out of pick 10. Otherwise, they just would have drafted him. But that's something I've done. I like quite a bit, actually. I think it's very possible. Once again, was just trying to do something new for one last shot here with this draft. Colston Loveland going to Indianapolis Colts. Shamar Stewart going to Atlanta. Could be anybody in terms of edge rusher there or defensive player. Will Johnson going to Arizona. Michael Williams going to Cincinnati. Jahdae Barron. Here we go at pick 18. Buffalo making a big move up. They are giving up picks 30, 62, and 109 in return, getting pick 18 and pick 92. So, look, I love Jahdae Barron. If there's any team who loves Jahdae Barron as much as I do, it's probably Buffalo. It's a great fit for them. They're a team that's just a few pieces away, or at least they could easily tell themselves that. If you don't think they are, you have to imagine there's a world where they think that. And so you go up, you get your guys in a draft where there aren't a whole lot of guys, and you've got the capital to do it. And you see a guy like Jahdae Barron, who you really think is top 10 guy, falling. Pick 18, you come up and get him. Seattle moves back. At pick 19, I went Jahad Campbell for Tampa Bay. I had actually planned on giving them a couple of offers to decide from the New York Giants, including Kayvon Thibodeau, which is something I did in a practice mock draft. But when it came time to the pick, I just got so excited because I think that Tampa Bay loves Jahad Campbell. That's like the worst kept secret in the NFL. The only thing is with the shoulder surgery that he had, he's going to miss the entire offseason, maybe some time early on in the year. Is that going to be enough to move him out of being like this top 20 guy? Quite potentially. Tough to say for sure. At pick 20, New York Giants give another offer to Denver. Here they go. They keep Kayvon Thibodeau, which actually may be something that they want to do anyways. They give up picks 34 and 65 to get pick 20 to get their quarterback, Shedeur Sanders. At the end of the day, of course, they could have taken Shedeur earlier, or they could have traded back and then gotten Shedeur after acquiring more capital. But, not too costly to get your quarterback of the future if that's what you think you're getting here at pick 20 in Shedeur Sanders, or hoping to get at least. Pick 21, we have another trade. Kansas City moving up to grab Josh Connerly Jr. Much like all of the Oregon guys in this draft class, these guys could be going much higher than we are anticipating going into the draft, much higher than consensus is on them. And Josh Connerly's definitely one of those names from Oregon that has that kind of potential. And so Kansas City says, hey, yeah, we'll move up to pick 21 to get that once again. Team that's right there, of course, in terms of being a Super Bowl contender, and they have got some decent capital, so they use it to get their man. Pittsburgh moving back. So that is going to bring us on to pick 22. Kenneth Grant going to Chargers, no surprise there. Gray Zabel going to Baltimore at pick 23, Green Bay's pick. That's a trade, and this is not anything that I had ever thought of until working on this. But if you're Baltimore, you're another team that's just, a couple pieces away. You're right there sniffing to be a Super Bowl contender. And you just need to get your guys. And if you are not confident in the guards that you have for that last offensive line spot in-house, Gray Zabel is somebody who you can come up, move up, grab, who you can put in there and pretty reliably say that he's going to come with the solid floor year one, which is all you can ask for from an offensive lineman that's taken at any point in the draft. Really, Will Campbell, for instance, in this draft, that's what you're asking for him at pick 4 even for New England. So, I mean, that's a pretty solid deal here at pick 23. Of course, we're talking guard compared to tackle. Gray Zabel is a guard. I know it says tackle there. That's not what he's going to be drafted at or used as in the NFL, unless maybe in a pinch situation like Joe Thuney did, for instance, for Kansas City this last year. Baltimore used to pick 27 and 91 to move up to 23, and they got 124 in return. And then New Orleans moving up, Minnesota. This is a spot where if you're coming up for a quarterback, this is an obvious spot if there's still one available after Pittsburgh had potentially drafted at this point, after maybe New York already traded up. But if you want the next quarterback off the board, well, here you go. Minnesota's probably going to be willing to fall back from pick 24. You get Jackson Dart for New Orleans here. This trade was pick 40 and 71 for pick 24. Nothing in return as Minnesota's looking to acquire more picks net, ultimately, in any kind of trade that they do. Look, this is going to be a draft you will see where quarterbacks go in pretty early and pretty often, and the reason that this happens to do with kind of what happened at the top of the first round here. Cleveland, New York Giants, they pick in pretty much the same spots in the second round very, very early, and we know that they're quarterback-needy teams, and then there's some quarterback-needy teams that if they haven't addressed the quarterback position yet behind them, that still need quarterback and will want to move up ahead of Cleveland, ahead of New York Giants, and Cleveland and the New York Giants themselves might be trying to prevent that from happening and moving up. So I think there's going to be a lot of teams calling into the back portion of this first round for quarterbacks. I don't know. A frenzy could happen, and that's what happens in this case because the New York Giants moved up, and then New Orleans moves up, and now the frenzy's really on. But Pittsburgh in this scenario did move back, so that, maybe loosen things up, but they're still going to get their target, you can see at pick 31, in Jalen Milroe. I think that it's very possible that they have Jalen Milroe as their second best quarterback, of course, behind Cam Ward, on Pittsburgh's board. And that's just in large part because these defensive coordinators, these defensive-minded head coaches, I should say, defensive-minded organizations, tend to lean towards the athletic quarterbacks that they target, that value higher, because as defensive coordinators, they find it tougher, harder to defend against these athletic quarterbacks compared to your classical sit in the pocket and throw high accuracy types of quarterbacks. So I think that Pittsburgh is a team who very well might value Jalen Milroe as high as any team that's out there. And there have been very, very light whispers throughout since the NFL Combine about Jalen Milroe being second, third, actually, I should say, on team rosters over Jackson Dart, who at that time was just starting to get his buzz as the number 3 going into that. So just something to look for potentially here for quarterbacks going, and the feast of quarterbacks will continue throughout this draft. Maybe I might have pushed them all too high. That's possible. Just kind of looking at a scenario where they go quicker than we anticipate. At pick 25, Houston going Derek Harmon. I know that there's at least one Houston fan who doesn't like that pick. Well, good for you. Derek Harmon might go much higher than this in the draft. Just like I was talking about with Josh Connerly, Derek Harmon is one of those Oregon Duck guys who could go higher than we anticipate. A lot of people love him, think that he's a near top 10, but definitely could go in the top 15 type of guy. At pick 26, Las Vegas going to take advantage of the Rams, looking to move back to get their target, much like the Green Bay Packers did at pick 23, and they move up to get Matthew Golden. That costs Las Vegas picks 37 and 68 in order to get 26 and then move in 68 all the way back to 101 for that move. And then the Green Bay Packers take Jaden Higgins here. Now we've got a wide receiver run going at the back portion of the first round. That's fairly common. That's exactly what happened last year, so wouldn't be shocked if something like this were to happen. Some of these wide receivers go, maybe even wide receivers who we don't think will go in the first round, start to go at the back portion. That happened last year. There were guys who had second, third round grades on going back end of the first, early second. So Jaden Higgins to Green Bay here. Trey Harris going to Detroit. Tyler Booker going to Washington. Seattle moved back, if you remember, from pick 18 with Buffalo. They pick Savone Revel. And then at pick 31, we talked about that. Pittsburgh had moved back. They still get their target in Jalen Milroe. And at pick 32, Donovan Jackson going to Philadelphia, because if you're Philadelphia, 2 of your top 3 needs are probably along the offensive line. Definitely, almost certainly, have some along the defensive line, and then for sure cornerback. But if you're looking at the 2 offensive-defensive line comparisons, well, if you got them pretty close on your board, the defense is more deep than the offensive line is. So you take Donovan Jackson if you have 2 equal tackle guard, actually, prospect here in Donovan Jackson with some tackle potential compared to an edge rusher that you like quite a bit. That's what we do here, and I think that it works out nicely for them. Let's get on to the second, third round. All right, here we are with pick 33, and for Cleveland, the quarterbacks, they went early, they went often, so we are just going to play the board to the best of our ability. We're going to get the best players that we can on this roster. Maybe we're in a situation where we're not as desperate as some of these other teams to get quarterbacks, and so or a quarterback. So it's going to be Omarion Hampton here at pick 33 to Cleveland, and at pick 34, the Denver Broncos are going to get, I think, quite the steal here in Walter Nolan, somebody who could go as high as, I would say, pick 8. I mean, really and honestly, but probably not that high. Still, Walter Nolan here in the second round for Denver. Great. They moved back from the first round here to pick 34, so I think that works out excellently for them. Let's bring us on to pick 35 here for Tennessee. And Cam Ward's going to need more than just Calvin Ridley to throw to. So we're going to go wide receiver. We're going to get him Emeka Egbuka. I just think he's more of a complete, reliable target than a Luther Burden. There are some other options, of course, that they could go. But Emeka Egbuka, really, really nice guy who's going to be there where he should be, when he should be, for your quarterback, Cam Ward. Of course, Cam Ward is somebody who likes to throw the ball deeper and hold on to the ball longer. Might look past Emeka Egbuka, hopefully not too often. Take advantage of your release valve, the guy that's wide open, please, Cam, for your own success early on, especially in your career. That will bring us on to the Jacksonville Jaguars here with pick 36. We need help all around the defense. I'm going to go Nick Emanwari here for Jacksonville. Very, very athletic safety. The Rams here at pick 37 had looked past, traded out of the first round all the way down here with the plan of taking a guy who I think that they're going to love. Maybe this is too early for him. Maybe not. I'm not sure, but we did see that the wide receivers started to go already, late there in the first round. So we're going to not, we're going to follow the trend and keep going there. Jack Besh to the Rams. New England up on the clock. This is going to be the trade offer that will be accepted from New England. Going to go pick 43, 113 to get 38 and get 171 in return. All these trades, I just kind of went by the book, by the trade charts. So they're roughly within range of what the trade charts say. Those are not, of course, perfect. All it takes is two people to agree. We can't perfectly predict exactly what the two different people are going to agree to. So the best we can do is get it pretty even on the trade charts and call it a day. So just gives you a rough idea of what the trade might look like. There's 60 different ways that you could make these trades work if you really wanted to. But San Francisco moves up again, right? Or did they move back earlier? What happened? No, they just stuck there at pick 11. But this time they move up at less of a cost here, up to pick 38, and that is for the following. Josh Simmons. He was, available. Somebody who could definitely go in the first round, but medicals might push him out of the first round. That's what I have happening here. San Francisco says we'll scoop him up, we'll use them. So just so you can see, here's the board. Some of the top guys on consensus is scrolling through there. Chicago Bears here at pick 39 have a pick shortly at pick 41. And with this pick, they do have, I think, an underrated need at cornerback. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go with Trey Amos, guy who he's my guy. I'm really a big fan of Trey Amos. Help just bring a nice high floor there in Chicago, and he's going to bring some nice physicality as well. Minnesota up on the clock here at pick 40. They're also in need of a cornerback, and that's one thing that you can be happy about taking a cornerback here in Chicago. If you need one, is maybe you're taking the guy that Minnesota was hoping that they could get. But in this case, I had Minnesota liking Benjamin Morrison. I think ultra sticky, would be top 15 guy, could be the CB1 if he had not got injured this last year. I'm a huge fan of him. I got to stop giving my division rivals, I'm a Green Bay Packer fan, guys who I like a lot. But trying not to be biased. That brings us on to Chicago's second pick. Arizona offers picks 47, 78 to get to 41 and get 98 in return. And that works nicely for Chicago in terms of getting another pick here in like that top 80, which I really think you're pretty safe in terms of getting solid talent, guys who you would have been happy with at pick 50. So Arizona moves up here. Why do they move up? Because Luther Burden has been falling, and I think this is a really, really nice addition into this wide receiver room. I go back and forth on how important it is to get another wide receiver in there. They could get away without it, of course, but a guy like Luther Burden really gives them a nice element to just kind of manufacture some plays, create some stuff, a different element that they just really do not have in that offense at all. And so they strike at an opportunity to get him. New York Jets here at pick 42, and look, they're interested in wide receiver, of course, and they're interested in this guy, top 30 or a 30 visit. Doesn't necessarily mean top 30. Does that mean he's going this high in the draft? I don't know. There are some people who think that he could go this high in the draft. So I ended up pulling the trigger on Kyle Williams here once again. Maybe that's like pick 73. That's very possible, but I ended up going that route in this version of the mock draft just based on some of what I could gather from players that they've looked at and positions of need. I was kind of locked in on wide receiver, and Kyle, once again, Kyle Williams was somebody who they've looked at, but maybe that doesn't mean that they don't like Jalen Noel, for instance, more than Kyle Williams. But I was trying to use who they've had the most touches with as somewhat of an indicator in this process for this mock draft. Just because then we know these things. Speaking of Jalen Noel, New England, hey, they've got a need. Look at how that lined up. So at pick 43, New England is going to go with Jalen Noel with pick 43 there, which was originally a San Francisco 49ers pick, apparently. Pick 44, Dallas on the board, got Tedoroa McMillan in the first round. I tell you what, Dallas fans should be happy with how this mock draft ends up turning out. I'm going to give them James Pierce here. I think that he adds some juice to that defensive line, which they really, really could use. He's fallen probably plenty enough if he's still available here at pick 44. I don't see why Dallas wouldn't take him. Let's go on to Indianapolis here at pick 45. And the edge rush, they've fallen enough. You know, the run is here, and so Indianapolis is going to go Donovan Ezeraku. I think a wonderful fit opposite of Laiatu Latu. Atlanta on the board next. And this is the offer from Cleveland to come up to 46, knowing that Atlanta would be open to a trade. Cleveland says, we still need a quarterback, right? So they're going to offer picks 67, 94, and a future fourth to Atlanta. You don't want to be giving up too many picks in this draft, right? We've still got a team that we have to maintain. But nonetheless, Cleveland comes up. Atlanta accepts that. And they're coming up for a quarterback, as I stated. Is it Tyler Shook? Maybe. Is it Will Howard? I don't know. Is it Quinn Ewers? Possibly. Is it Kyle McCord? I think so. Out of this group, I love Kyle McCord. I think that he's worthy of being taken at this point in the draft. Somebody who I think you could throw out there and start pretty quickly. I think he's pretty tough-skinned. He's pretty pro-ready. Yes, there's some development to go, but who doesn't have some development to go in the NFL? I'm a big fan of Kyle McCord, and I think that I would be low-key a little bit excited if I was Cleveland in this scenario. Up until this point, biting my nails and be like, what the hell are we doing? And then say, oh, okay, well, we can work with this. And he doesn't have to play in year one if he's not ready to go year one. That's okay. They've got a guy who can come in this year. They're not expecting to be a Super Bowl winner this year. They're reset mode. They made a mistake, or maybe they didn't make a mistake, but they made a bet on a guy who maybe they shouldn't have made a bet on, and they made a big bet and they lost. And so here we are. It's time to set things up. I mean, I think if that Deshaun Watson thing had worked out, given where that defense was, they were in that conversation. It just, unfortunately for them, didn't work out at all. And that will wrap up Cleveland's day, by the way. So they had Travis Hunter, Omarion Hampton, and Kyle McCord here. The grading, I don't really care about the grades here, but at the same time, it is always nice to see the good ones. So by the consensus board, pretty good start to this draft, at least for Cleveland. And then, whatever. I don't care. That's going to bring us on to pick 47. The Chicago Bears are back up on the clock. They've still got several picks to go before the end of the third round. And then remember, we're going to go through the fourth round, but we're going to do that on the sheet that is up on my website instead of on here. With this pick, we have not addressed our defensive line. Probably, I think, maybe the biggest area of actual still need yet for Chicago. And I said defensive line, I didn't say edge rusher on purpose, because ultimately, and I have edge rusher pick or defensive line picked here, because ultimately, really what they need is pass rush. And it doesn't have to be coming from an edge rusher. They've invested in that a little bit. They've got, I think, 3 guys there that they can utilize at least as a part of a rotation. Could improve once again from there, but in this instance, we are going to have them going with probably the best pass rusher in this draft class from the interior of a defensive line in Omar Norman Lott. Another my guy given to a division rival. What is my problem? That being said, I will say maybe I made a bit of a mistake for Chicago. Maybe the new draft board over at Trevor Sikkema's board on PFS played with my mind a little bit, seeing Omar Norman Lott so high up on the board. It messed with the chemicals in my brain, because it probably would have been smarter to make this next pick. That's right, Chicago's going to be moving right back up into the next pick here, giving pick 72, 78 up for 48, so paying a pretty hefty price here that you probably wouldn't want to pay. At the same time, it matches the value roughly, and you can get something back here at least. Would prefer it be a 6th rounder, but it didn't quite work out like that. So, it is an even trade here. And I think it might have been awkward to try to trade up in time to get Omar Norman Lott if you wanted to trade back up to get him. So at the end of the day, I don't mind this, but you probably would have gone with Travion Henderson first. He's expected to go higher, and then try trading up for Omar Norman Lott. And once again, with a little bit of luck, maybe you wouldn't have had to give up both picks 72 and 78. So I guess there was my revenge, and that's going to bring up the end of the Chicago Bears draft as well. So they went Malachi Starks, Trey Amos, Omar Norman Lott, Travion Henderson. Grades, not the best here. I get it. I understand why they aren't the best, but at the same time, I look at these names, and that gets me rather excited. Malachi Starks, Trey Amos, Omar Norman Lott, Travion Henderson. I think you can get pretty juiced up about that despite where you ended up getting some of these guys. That is going to bring us on to Cincinnati at pick 49, and Cincinnati, you got to protect your quarterback, right? This is a solid draft to be getting some of these guards in the second round. I think Tate Ratledge should go higher than pick 70. Big fan of him, so that's what we're going to do here for Cincinnati. Should be a nice fit. Seattle here at pick 50. We're going to stick right on the interior of the defense. We're going to stick right with Georgia and take Jared Wilson for them. Could have gone either route really for Seattle. Would have been made enough sense here at pick 50 in terms of getting Jared Wilson or going with a wide receiver that we plan on going here instead, because Denver does have a need with both of them. So whichever one you think is at a higher risk of Denver taking. Denver is going to go wide receiver. However, they're not going to take the guy who Seattle's got an eye on at least. I'm going to have them going Jalen Royals here. Big fan of him. Should be a very quarterback-friendly guy, and that's what I want here in Denver for Bo Nix. So that's the route there. Seattle, like I said, going to go wide receiver. They're going to go with the next man up, best player available at wide receiver apparently in Alec Iomenor. I'm not as high up on him, but he does bring a different element, I think, than what they have currently to this wide receiver room. So there you go. That will bring us on to Tampa Bay here at pick 53. Going to go edge rusher Nick Skirton, who has fallen, and so nice additions here to the front seven for Tampa Bay, a team who's close, and I love those additions for them. Green Bay going to be here at pick 54. Went Jaden Higgins in the first round, and now we're going to go with cornerback is a need here, Maxwell Harrison. And if I told you that Green Bay Packers got Maxwell Harrison and Jaden Higgins with the first two picks of draft, you would probably assume that Maxwell Harrison went first, Jaden Higgins went next. But in this scenario, we went the other route, and it worked out for them. Los Angeles Chargers up on the clock at pick 55. And here we're going to go with a guy who the NFL apparently loves at a position of need, and Mason Taylor here going to the Los Angeles Chargers. Love that for them. Buffalo up on the clock next, and they need a big body on the interior of their defensive line. Would be nice. Tyleik Williams could have gone earlier than this. He doesn't, and so Buffalo says hell yeah. And we're hitting a point in the draft where like all these guys could have gone earlier. Some of them could go later, but I put them up earlier because they could go earlier than they actually normally go. And that's going to continue, like I said, all the way through into like pick 80 plus. It's really not until the fourth round that it's a little bit more hit or miss with prospects being available, except for the running back. You'll see the running backs here. I have them fall in this class, and then there's still more running backs available that I would have been happy with high up in the third even, but I have like late third, early fourth rounds that don't even go off the board by the end of the fourth. So, that depth does a lot for the mentality, I think, of how you draft and that position in this draft, which, I mean, take a quick look. You can already see them starting to build up here a little bit. But here at pick 57 for Carolina, we are going to go with a safety, and we're not going to go with the safety that you probably normally see to them. I'm going to go Kevin Winston Jr. I think he could help to give them an identity on their defense. I said that earlier for a team. This was the team that I think wrote that about, was more so Kevin Winston Jr. is an identity kind of guy, is a big thumper downhill kind of guy. So Carolina could use that in their defense, and now we're starting to build some good pieces on every level of that defense that we can hang our hat on and be proud of, hopefully. That's going to bring us on to Houston here at pick 58. You went Derek Harmon in the first. You can never argue against addressing your trenches on either side of the ball, and we are going to address both of them here with a guy who we're going to probably have to go down a little ways for him. He is considered, I don't actually think he's an interior offensive lineman. I think he is a left tackle, and that is Charles Grant here. So going to go with him. He's a guy who could go much higher than that 99 spot according to the consensus. That is going to bring us on to pick 59. Now, recently, I went with this pick in a draft in the first round with their normal pick, so like right towards the end of the first round. Here, he falls, and Baltimore couldn't be happier, and this is going to be the final pick for Baltimore's draft. So they get an A there, and Carson Schweschinger also gave them an A grade. So nice couple building blocks there for Baltimore. They did trade up to have like 4 picks in the 4th round, I think, though. So go check that out if you're a Baltimore fan and you don't want to stay tuned for the rest. Detroit here at pick 60. Going to go with a guy who I had not thought of, but definitely fits the ankle biter type of mentality for Detroit. Go check out my write-up on this if you want more about it. But Josiah Stewart, I love that for Detroit. Like I said, I mean, the write-up about it, you don't even need to check it out. That's what it is that Josiah Stewart is like the toughest guy on this defense for Michigan on the team, according to a lot of its teammates. And I think that Detroit would love that. And I like Josiah Stewart a little bit more than consensus does. And I think that he would be a great fit opposite in that for that defensive line. That's going to bring us on to pick 61. New England has called with pick 69, 144, and a future 6th to move up to 61. Washington looks at the board. Like I said, plenty of talent around this area of the board. So they say, yeah, we'll still get one of the guys that we could that we would take here anyways. So let's do it. New England comes up, and they are targeting more offensive line. So, talk about this a little bit, but basically, I mean, you can't get enough offensive line here in New England. They need like 4 new offensive linemen for now and into the short-term future. Ariante Ursary is a guy who could very well go at the back end of the first round. That would not be a surprise. Don't be surprised if you see that once again. Detroit, Philadelphia, I think, are the 2 teams most likely that would want to grab him there, but there are other teams that would definitely be of service for him. Just a big guy who's got really good movement skills, and you put those 2 things together and it's already enticing. And he's better than like Tyler Guyton, I think, was last year. I think he's a little bit further ahead of as well the guy in Miami, who I liked a little bit more than Tyler Guyton. So here at pick 61, Ariante Ursary, I think a nice deal there for New England. And if Will Campbell doesn't work out on the as a tackle, he can move into the inside. Ariante Ursary can work out there. If Will Campbell does work out there, Ariante Ursary, Will Campbell, one of them could work out at the other tackle, but most likely could just kick in at guard, at least in the short term, because they do have that right tackle for now shored up. That is going to bring us on to the Seattle Seahawks pick at 62 here. And the Seattle is going to not take any chances. The quarterbacks have been going early and often. This is somebody that they've recently showed some interest in. We are going to go with Tyler Shuck to Seattle. Don't ask me how that's pronounced like that, Tyler Shug. But I think it has more of like a CK ending sound. That's how I always hear it. Maybe I'm hearing it wrong. But that's what I've understood. So let's bring us on to Kansas City. Atlanta is calling up for an edge rusher. Now, if you remember, I did already draft an edge rusher for them. This was originally a mistake that I did not catch until I was pretty much done with this whole thing. And it's a real headache to have to go back and make changes once you're done with these. So I would have. I've done it before. That's no problem. Well, it's just an annoyance. It's not a problem. You know what I mean? So I said, can I justify 2 edge rushers to Atlanta? And it didn't take me very long to say yes, in part because 2 totally different edge rushers, as well as the fact that they have room to add 2 edge rushers into their edge rush room anyways. So Atlanta gives up a pick 67 and a 4th rounder to move up to pick 63, and they do get a future 4th, and they do get a future 5th in return. So a 4th, 5th round swap to move up from 67 to 63. Everybody's happy here. Kansas City's okay with this, and they help out their future capital. Bada bing, bada boom. That's going to bring Atlanta up on the clock. And the edge rusher that I was going for with them is a guy who I like much higher than this, but hey, we're even lower than according to consensus, he's fallen. And Prince Umanmielen. Now, once again, I know I took Shamar Stewart for them. Big home run, boomer bust kind of prospect anyways here. And Prince Umanmielen, somebody who I would be fine with taking in the 1st round. So it's a nice deal. And Prince Umanmiele's more of a designated pass rusher who I think isn't too far away from being able to be on the field for 3 downs. And Shamar Stewart is a definite 3-down, like run stuffing first kind of guy with pass rushing upside that's, really, really high, but has not been realized at all yet. So very different kinds of edge rushers there for Atlanta, and just gets a little bit of juice into that room for now and hopefully into the future as well. I don't mind that. Green Bay Packers, my team, is a team who's taken 2 of players in almost every draft with this current regime, and it works out nicely. A lot of times the second guy that you take ends up being better than the first one that you take. And I think that could be the situation that happens here for Atlanta if they were to do something like this. Philadelphia up on the clock next year at pick 64. And I said they were looking at both offensive line, defensive line there. And if you want offensive line, defensive line, / edge, like it's deeper on the defensive line and edge than it is against the offensive line. You look at some of these guys and, I think that that's very clear as to why that was the right decision. And we're going to go with JT Tuimoloau here to the Eagles. Could have been any number of these guys, but I thought that he was probably the most likely one that Philly would want out of the bunch that they had to choose from there. At pick 65, Denver's up on the board. Got Walter Nolan as a great dealer. Jalen Knowles is Jalen Royals is a my guy. Love him. And now the running backs have been slipping. Maybe we'll start teams getting all crazy about picking him, but Quinshon Judkins is going to be the guy there. Nice A+ there for Denver, so their patience pays off at that position. Pittsburgh up on the clock next, fell back, got a second-round draft pick in return, and took Jalen Milroe, got our quarterback of the future, so this all works out pretty nicely, and they're going to get a guy who could go quite a bit higher here at a position of need, and Azareye'h Thomas, to Pittsburgh there. They've still got another pick. Kansas City here at pick 67 after they just did a small jump back. And here's the reason. We're going to go with somebody who they have visited with, they've shown interest in. Will they take him? Will they take him this high? I don't know, but I don't think that you can plan on Harold Fannin Jr. being there at 95. I shouldn't say that completely. You can't rule it out. But if you like him, then you're probably not waiting. So I think this is one of the teams where I really like Harold Fannin Jr. to go to in terms of the chances of him finding success. So Kansas City going Harold Fannin Jr. in this instance. So we'll see. That's a team who I've kind of had the number for when it comes to drafting. So, it's a little bit of an out there pick, but I like it. Los Angeles Rams here at pick 68 are going to be able to address their linebacker need. Went Jack Besh earlier. Going to get their linebacker now. That works out nicely. I think a wonderful fit there for the Los Angeles Rams with Knight, not only for need, but also just in system fit there. Washington up on the clock, and I think we're going to do a double trade back here, right? Washington at 69. Giggity. And here is the trade. So Seattle's going to offer pick 82 and 109 to move up to 69. They will get 205 in return, late 6th rounder there. So that's that's nice. And Seattle moved back before. As you can see, Seattle has taken plenty of guys here in the first 69 picks. Giggity. And here at pick 69, I promise I won't do that again. Or will I? But at pick 69, giggity. I did it. Darn it. It's going to be Landon Jackson. So that's going to wrap up their day. We're going to go Savone Revel, Jared Wilson, Alec Iomanner, Tyler Shuck, and Landon Jackson. And I will say, this isn't my favorite collection of guys. At the same time, Savone Revel, I really like a lot. Jared Wilson, I really like a lot. Getting a quarterback for the future, you can't ever complain about that. If you believe in him, at least. Alec Iomanner, not my guy, but a lot of people like him a lot. Brings a different element that they kind of need there in that wide receiver room. And then you still get that edge rusher here in Landon Jackson, too, who I think could have gone much, much higher slips, as the edge rushers did in this mock draft. There's still, some that are lower than the lower than where we're at here in the draft. But that's the first 3 rounds. I think they've got another 4th rounder as well. So getting a lot of players to add into that room there in Seattle. That is going to bring us on to pick 70, Jacksonville. And we're going to continue to build this secondary up. We got Nick Manwari, just this defense in general, by adding another speedster. A lot of speed getting added to this defense with Nick Manwari, Darian Porter, and heck, Mason Graham up front. Why not? But yeah, Darian Porter, You're going to add into that room. They have a lot of holes in that secondary. Minnesota up next at pick 71. And so Minnesota's actually going to fall back into the 4th round just a little ways once we get to pick 97. So that's why it looks like this is not their final pick, but this is the final pick for now. So we got you pick 40, we got you pick 71. You're going to move back, get a little bit more capital at the end of the day for Minnesota. Also going to get pick 167 at the end with moving back. So 71, 167 by moving back a little ways a couple times. Works out for them. Minnesota has touched base with a guy who could go much higher. Look at that. We're perfectly on here. 71 to Minnesota. So Benjamin Morrison, Marcus and Bo go to them. They have a need. Marcus and Bo could be a center of the future as well. He has that possibility, but probably going to be their guard for now. Help in that room. Miami up onto the clock next. By the way, Bo could play tackle if you believed in that. I think he's a little too short for that. Miami at pick 72 up on the clock, and Miami is going to get one of my favorite players of this entire draft here in Andrew Makuba. So Xavier Watts falling a little bit in this draft. So Andrew Makuba is a guy who a lot of people think could go in the 2nd round. That's been the news as of late. I have him as a late 1st, early 2nd round prospect. I'm a big fan of him, going to the right team at least, and there's some open availability in the secondary here for Miami. So that should be a nice fit, I think, there in Miami. New York Jets up on the clock here at pick 73, going to be their final pick of this draft. Outside of course, those 4th rounders, don't forget. When Armand Mimba before then maybe reached a little bit. In my book, they did reach for Kyle Williams, but this was an attempt at predicting what they might do with this pick. Once again, that wouldn't be my choice, Kyle Williams to them, but that's the one that they've had contact with and everything that was available. Well, I thought, got to go wide receiver here. So that's what I did. Maybe they move back and then get them a little bit later. I don't know. But at pick 73, we are going to look towards our future, not feeling super secure there. And we're going to grab Quinn Ewers. I don't know. He just feels like a Jet, and they've also had him in for 30 visits, shown some interest. Maybe this is a little bit too early. Maybe not. I think... I think a lot of these quarterbacks will be gone by the end of the 4th round for sure. And I had them going, 2nd and 3rd round for the most part. Carolina up on the clock. This is going to be their final pick here at 74. And we got Jalen Walker for them to start. Very nice. Kevin Winston Jr. I like it quite a bit. A little bit of a home run swing, a little bit of a projection here with Kevin Winston Jr., of course. But once again, it brings the possibility of having a tone setter in that secondary, which is something that they very much need. We're going to take a little bit of a pit stop, help our offense out just a little bit. Another guy that they've had contact with, Terrence Ferguson, who I'm very high on, would be fine with him even later 2nd round. Very high on him. So that concludes their draft with tight end Terrence Ferguson here outside of any 4th round picks. San Francisco on the clock here at pick 75. They will stick and pick, and it works out nicely for them that these edge rushers have been falling. I had them going Braden Swinson here. It could be somebody else, but that's just who I thought that they might go with out of that group. Dallas is up on the clock next, and now we're going to start to see some of these positions that have been falling continue to fall. Dallas has looked at a whole heck of a lot of running backs. Caleb Johnson was not one of them. Cam Skattebo is. I have Cam Skattebo ahead of Caleb Johnson anyways in my rankings, so we're going to go with Cam Skattebo, but could be anybody. Maybe, once again, just because they have contact with somebody doesn't mean they like them more than somebody who they haven't had contact with, so very well could be Caleb Johnson there as well. Would just make sense. Be fine. And with that, we are truly in run territory on this running back position. And here, this is more of a system fit than best player. I like Caleb Johnson a lot more than Dylan Sampson. But when it comes to New Orleans system, and I think who they've had contact with, Dylan Sampson is the better fit. So we are going to go with Dylan Sampson to New England to wrap up their day. They went Will Campbell, all offense here. Will Campbell, Jalen Noel, Ariante Ursary, Dylan Sampson. And this is something that would jive with what they've done in the offseason. They spent a lot of focus on building up that defense, at least for the short to intermediate term. And here we're going to focus on getting this offense back up to speed, making sure that our quarterback that we've invested so much in is a success for now and into the future. Because if he's a success, then we're going to be a success as coaches, as GM. and we're going to help him finish that off with Dylan Sampson. So that's going to bring us on to Miami. Kelvin Banks, Andrew Makuba. Is this their final pick? It is, and we're going to go into the defensive line for them, get a guy who I think could have gone much higher. Once again, defensive line, also a position that has been falling in this draft. I went with Alfred Collins for them. Maybe they would prefer Darius Alexander. I think this is another case where I saw that they have touched, base with Alfred Collins and not Darius Alexander. I also like Alfred Collins more than Darius Alexander myself. But maybe they're looking for more of a penetrator. Alfred Collins, not as much of a penetrator. Don't expect him to be your next Christian Wilkins. That's not him. But very, very likable, good player with upside. I just don't think he has that ceiling like Christian Wilkins does, whereas maybe Darius Alexander kind of does. But nonetheless, that finished their mock draft, and so let's see what Miami had. It was Kelvin Banks, Andrew Makuba, and Alfred Collins. Look at that wonderful grading there from Miami. You're welcome. That's to bring us on to Houston. They are going to continue that run that was happening here at the running back position with Caleb Johnson. Yeah, they've got pick 89 yet. So Derek Harmon, Charles Grant, Caleb Johnson coming in here. It's a very good, complete team. Is this the best draft that I've ever done for Houston? I don't know. I haven't done a 3-round draft, but I'm fine with it, and good value there for Caleb Johnson, that's for sure. And I do think that they would be interested in. Well, they are. They've looked at Caleb Johnson. They've brought several running backs in, or touched base with them as top 30 types of visits. So here we go, Indianapolis with their final pick of this draft. We got Colston Loveland, Donovan Ezeraku. They do have one big need on offense, and that's at guard. And lucky for them, Jonas Avenaiia has slipped compared to consensus. So there you go. Let's get rid of that. And so that was their day. I think I covered who they had already drafted. Cincinnati up next. Looks like their day is going to be coming to an end. We went Mykel Williams, edge, Tate Ratledge, guard, and to finish this up, we are going to get a safety who has been falling in Xavier Watts. So there we go. Washington up on the clock next at pick 82. This is their final pick of the draft, and this works out nicely for them. It'd be nice and patient, traded back a few times, going to take advantage of a spot that has been falling compared to consensus, although I won't be surprised if Jack Sawyer goes into the third like this. He's just, in a deep class of edge rushers, he's just doesn't show too much special, and he didn't do any athletic testing to maybe make you think otherwise. So it's going to be Jack Sawyer there too, Washington, and I think they maybe picked up a couple of fourth rounders along the way. I can tell you actually, so they've still got pick 144 and a 2026 sixth round pick in addition to everything else. I think that's after the fourth round. Yes. So anything that I'm talking about, so the Minnesota Vikings I talked about earlier, picking 167. Here, Washington Commanders, 144, 2026 sixth rounder. All of these are anything that they acquired that is greater than a fourth round pick. So a fifth round, sixth round, seventh round pick, or a future pick that I'm pointing out. So I think Washington Commanders also moved something into the fourth round earlier or something like that. The Chargers are going to put up a little package to come up just a few spots with Pittsburgh, giving pick 199 to move 86 up to 83. Pittsburgh says, sure, why not? We could use a little bit more capital. And the Chargers say, please, please, please give me. They are looking at wide receiver Torrey Horton. Big fan of him. I'd be cool with him in the second round. Well, again, big fan of him. That's going to wrap up the day for Los Angeles Chargers. So they got Kenneth Grant, Mason Taylor, Torrey Horton. Going to help our offense improve more, and then we're probably going to be focusing mostly on defense for the rest of this draft, I would assume. We'll see. I probably have some fourth rounders for them. So that's to bring us on to pick 84 with Tampa Bay. This will be their final pick of this top 3 rounds. Jihad Campbell, Nick Scorton, and we're going to go to the cornerback room, and we're going to take Jacob Parrish, somebody who I think they could like. I also think I wrote up in my comments. Who was it? Noel Williams, I think they have had a visit with, and I will have Noel Williams going shortly to somebody. So it could have also been that. But here we go. It's going to be Jacob Parrish going there to finish up their first 3 rounds. Denver, final pick of the first 3 rounds here at pick 85. I like this draft so far for them. Walter Nolan, very, very high upside, and I think an okay floor. Jalen Royals, Quinshon Judkins, and to wrap this up, we need going to bring in a tight end. Would it be Elijah Arroyo? I don't think that's really the type of tight end that they're looking to add. I think you're looking to add Gunnar Helm, who brings a little bit of versatility in line, helping to block type of guy. A little bit of joker. He's not the biggest joker element ever, but he is somebody that they've had a top 30 visit with. So Gunnar Helm coming in to Denver. I really like that fit. Elijah Arroyo slides. That matches my board. I'm just not as high up on Elijah Arroyo. And finally, I'm hearing some people out there in this world also aren't. A lot of the people that I watched during the draft season are really high up on him, but I'm just not. Pittsburgh, with their final pick of the third round, we got Jalen Miller, we got Azariah Thomas. We just moved back a little ways. Not going to miss out on our target. I'm going to have him going with R.J. Harvey. It was between him and Savion Williams. Both of them, I think, bring something that this offensive coordinator there would love. Arthur Smith. He's a big fan of these types of guys. I think R.J. Harvey can bring a little wildcat element there. In case you're interested, that got a B on the grading. So that is going to bring us up to the Green Bay Packers at pick 87. And the Green Bay Packers still have another pick at 90 shortly. Here, they're going to go into the interior defensive line. I don't know for sure that this is going to be what they have, but they don't necessarily have needs. Like, they do have some needs. I shouldn't say that. But they don't have a whole heck of a lot of them. I mean, they've added a lot of young guys. So it's really, at this point, it's like, where can we improve or bring more competition in to hopefully improve? And here, Darius Alexander is, I think, best player available. Best player available via consensus as well. I think he's best player available on my board, too, when I made this pick. So it's going to be Darius Alexander to the Green Bay Packers. And then at pick 88, Jacksonville up on the clock, and going to take advantage of the running backs going down. Once again, I was looking at top 30 visits, and I really, really like this fit for them, and they've shown interest in him, Damian Martinez. So that's going to finish up their day. They went Mason Graham, Nicky Manwari, Darren Porter. I want to get this off before another ad comes. So a C+ there for Damian Martinez, but I got to tell you, a lot of teams have him as a top 30 visit. So definitely drawing a lot of interest. Teams making sure to do their homework on him. And hopefully it's not because of some character concerns or anything. But they're doing their homework on him. He's possibly in demand if he's doing well while they're touching with him. That's going to bring us on to Houston. Not touching him, touching base with him. Houston went Derek Harmon, Charles Grant, Caleb Johnson. Once again, I mean, I like it. I could understand if you don't like it. And you might not like this pick as well. My bad. Didn't mean to change that. But I'm talking about Elijah Arroyo here. Going to get a nice pass-catching, big slot type of player here in Elijah Arroyo instead of going wide receiver for them. So Elijah Arroyo, really, you're not going to put him in line. You're not going to ask him to block. He is basically a big receiver. So Elijah Arroyo getting added to the room there for 2 tight end sets. And once again, big slot type of guy that they can add there. You like that for a Houston room that's got a lot of wide receivers, just not up to full health to begin the year. And then we've got the Los Angeles Rams up on the clock at pick 90. And I talked about this coming soon, and I just love this fit. I just love these fits. The Los Angeles Rams, this could be their draft. This is a very Los Angeles Rams draft in terms of the fits. And here we're going to give them Noel Williams. I think they want to be able to do a little bit more man stuff, and Noel Williams is going to be able to bring them that element if they wish. A physical wide receiver who I obviously am willing to take him here. I obviously think a lot of Noel Williams. That grade's not going to be great for Noel. Let's bring us on to the Green Bay Packers here at pick 91. Just went Darius Alexander. We got Maxwell Harrison earlier and Jaden Higgins. Flip those two. You still probably get an A here, and then that one's like an A. So, whatever. But we are going to continue to look along the defensive line, and I actually screwed up. So at pick 87, I gave them this defensive lineman. It was TJ Sanders that I gave them over Darius Alexander, because Darius Alexander was not my best player available at that point in time. Now he's the best player available. I gave them TJ Sanders. Might have been the best player available. I don't know. But the reason I gave them TJ Sanders is because he brings a lot of pass rush upside, which is something that they don't currently have along their interior defensive line. Darius Alexander is much more a fit to the prototype that they already have in the room. But best player available, and we see this oftentimes from Green Bay. They double down on positions. They draft 2 of them. So that's the thought process here, is they're doubling down. One, a different type, though, in TJ Sanders than they currently have. And the other, maybe an upgrade from what they already have in the room. Although I think that they kind of like those guys, so I don't know. I don't know that they're going to go 2 interior defensive linemen. Unless, of course, maybe it's just he's the best player available type of thing, like Darius Alexander was at the point of taking him technically here at pick 91. But whatever, reverse those two, it doesn't matter. That's going to bring us on to pick 92 for the Buffalo Bills. All right, from here to the end of the draft, this is the final pick for all of these teams, so I won't be saying that anymore. Jahdae Barron, Tyleik Williams, Buffalo, killing it so far in this draft. Gave up a little bit of capital to help make that happen, but, I love it. I would also give them A pluses here. And I think a wonderful fit here to wrap this up. Another guy who apparently is falling. Consensus overall 68. Olu, I'm not that high up on him, so maybe that's part of the reason why he falls in my mock. But, definitely somebody who could go higher than this. He doesn't, and Buffalo takes advantage. And once again, this also had to do with the fact that just in general, my edge rushers kind of slipped a little bit in this mock draft scenario that I did as teams went for some of the less plentiful positions and were reaching for those, knowing that they could come back and hopefully still get a good quality player along the interior defensive line, along the edge, at the running back position, as we've seen all of them slide. That's to bring New Orleans up onto the clock, and they're going to be the first to maybe make a little bit of a reach here to a guy who a lot do believe will be going in the third round. Anyways, Anthony Belton. I don't think Emory Jones is going to be going ahead of these guys. Cameron Williams, maybe not. Ozzie, Wyatt Milam could definitely go ahead of him, but we're looking for a true tackle here, and it was probably between Ozzie and Anthony Belton. I think they probably had a 30 visit with Anthony Belton, and that might be the reason here. So Mike Green, love it. Jackson Dart, you like it. Anthony Belton, you don't love it, but it's at a position of need. It's fine. It's not a reach, really, at this point. It's just maybe there were some other options, better options out there. You could think that. Atlanta here at pick 94, going to go and continue to help this front seven. We got Shamar Stewart, we got Princely Umanmielen, we're going to add Chris Pupal there, Princely and Chris. There, look at that, two Mississippi guys. By the way, did you catch it? Miami had 3 Texas guys taken in their first 3 picks of this draft. Sometimes those weird things just happen. That is going to bring us on to pick 95. Kansas City got Josh Connerly, got Harold Fannin. They're probably going to be looking to improve along their defensive line. That's what I have them doing. Going to get Joshua Farmer. He has slipped enough. Once again, interior defensive line has been sliding. Philadelphia up on the clock. Donovan Jackson, JT Tuimoloau at the end of the second. And here towards the end of the third, we're going to add a my guy here. And not just because he's a my guy, because they have visited with him, because his stock has been on the rise. Just a month and a half ago, he was in the 300s, and he fits exactly what Philadelphia is looking for in Za Frazier. I absolutely love this fit and will not be surprised to see this 3rd, 4th round, maybe if they get lucky, happen. That's going to bring us on to... And the offer comes in from Tennessee, 103 and 167 to move up to 197. We make that trade. Minnesota okay with that. Not a big fallback for more capital. As you can see, they're shy in that room. We're going to accept the trade. What is going on? All right, you're just going to have to use your imagination. That kind of is obnoxious. Maybe... Well, that's annoying, but Tennessee went Cameron Ward and Emeka Egbuka. Then they're going to use that draft capital once again, 103 and 167 to move up here to 97 in order to pick up a my guy along the edge room. He's a little ways down here in David Walker, an absolute menace, going to bring some real juice to that edge rushing room. I think he'll probably go higher than 132, but we'll see. I wouldn't call that a guarantee. That is good. Although in this draft class, I think probably. That is going to bring us up to Arizona. And is it going to be a best player available? I don't quite think so, but how far off? Not too far off there. Going to get Wyatt Milam, adding him to Will Johnson, Luther Burden. Oh yeah, this is a fun draft for them. Really like all 3 of these players. So nice draft there for Arizona. The New York Giants here at pick 99 got Abdul Carter, got Shedeur Sanders, and here we could go a lot of routes. But we are going to take a guy who's going to bring a little bit more juice onto this front 7 and really make that a strength in CJ West next to in that edge rushing room. Look at my stuff up on the website to where I talk a little bit more about that nice front 7 now. Let's bring us on to San Francisco at pick 100. Going to stick along this defensive line. Going to add Jordan Phillips. They need several defensive linemen in this draft. They ended up going offense the first 2 picks. That's not necessarily the route I expect them to go, most likely. That's not necessarily the route that I suggest that they go, but just kind of how this draft works out for them. And here they're going to get a nose tackle here in Jordan Phillips add to that room. I like that. And part of the reason that I went with him specifically is I do think that he's a fit. Jordan Phillips is all football all day, and San Francisco loves football players, guys who know ball, guys who love ball. That's what San Francisco loves. They value that a lot, and Phillips is exactly that. So I really won't be surprised to see them drafting him. And they're also a team who drafts on their own dime. They do not care about consensus. They just take the guys who they've got next up on their board. Let's bring us on to Las Vegas. Ashton Jeanty, Matthew Golden, really helping this offense. And you know what? We want to help it going into the future. We're going to take a guy who I would love to see go higher than this. I think he goes higher than 163 in Dillon Gabriel. I think being a little bit overlooked. And I mean, have we ever seen Pete Carroll do anything with a short, mobile quarterback before? I don't know. So Ashton Jeanty, Matthew Golden, going to get Dillon Gabriel in there to back up for now. And Geno Smith ain't getting any younger. Detroit going to wrap up our third round, and we are going to go with a guy who I talked about a little bit. Well, not really talked about, but Cameron Williams, Ozzie Trapilo could definitely be the target here as well. Heck, they could go elsewhere. But had him go with a big swing here for the future of their offensive line and a big developmental guy in Cameron Williams. That ends our first 3 rounds. Somebody could have told me that my hair was doing that over here. All right, so now we are into the 4th round. We're going to fly through these, and it starts off with Minnesota at 103 going Devin Neal. I'm not going to say every pick number. It's the next number after 103 and after 104 for the pick after this. Cleveland going offensive tackle, Ozzie Trapilo, Boston College. New York Giants going with a Logan Brown, offensive tackle, Kansas. Interior defensive lineman Ty Robinson going to be going to New England, adding to that room. Jacksonville getting wide receiver Andrew Armstrong. Could be Isaac Tesla. Maybe it's not a wide receiver, of course, anyways. But Andrew Armstrong, really big fan of him. Big-bodied wide receiver for them. This might be a little bit early for him, but I'm a big fan. Zy Alexander going to Las Vegas. Physical type, Pete Carroll type of cornerback. So that's part of the reason that I went with Zy Alexander for them. Washington going with Quincy Riley, cornerback. That is a consensus pick. I'm a little bit lower on Quincy Riley, but I'm fine with him in the 4th round. New York Jets, Jordan Birch, edge rusher. Jamari Caldwell, interior defensive lineman, going to Carolina. O'Donnell Fortune, cornerback, my guy, going to New Orleans. That's a my pick there for sure. Jake Majors, center, going to New England. He is the 2nd best center, most likely in this class. So he could go earlier, depending on what the league, what they think of this draft overall. But definitely the next best center after Jared Wilson. Linebacker Chandler Martin going to Carolina here. East Tennessee State, smaller school guy. You checked out my linebacker rankings video. You'll see him in there, me talking about him. I'm a big fan. There should be links down in the description to my positional ranking videos, I believe. Arizona going Jared Ivey, interior defensive lineman first. Could give him some help on the edge, but a disruptor nonetheless out of Mississippi. And Aeneas Peebles going to Miami. They got their steady Eddie interior defensive lineman, much like the Green Bay Packers. Now they're going for a different flavor, and Aeneas Peebles of Virginia Tech could give them some nice pass rushing, a little bit of what they lost with Christian Wilkins. Danny Stutzman could go higher than this in the draft for sure. Going to Indianapolis, great find for them. Could go higher than Chandler Martin for sure, but I thought Chandler Martin was a nice fit there for Carolina, what they're looking to do. So Oklahoma, Danny Stutzman, great pick there. He's in my linebacker rankings video as well. Of course, a lot of these guys are in my rankings videos for their positions still at this point. Kobe Bryant going to Atlanta, get themselves smaller but very physical cornerback. DJ Giddens, running back, going to Cincinnati. It was a little bit tough for Cincinnati with the running backs because they've already got their smaller, shiftier back, and there was a lot of that on the board for a while for Cincinnati. This was the one who I thought they might say would be the best pairing with what they have, despite a couple of the other guys maybe I would have wanted for them anyways. But whatever. Tennessee going to go cornerback Melo Johnson, the other guy out of Kansas, out of Kobe Bryant, who I like pretty much just as much as Kobe Bryant. Jalen Lane, Virginia Tech wide receiver, going to go to Tampa Bay here. Tampa Bay has been scouting these slot-ish types of wide receivers, so maybe they are still looking to add one into the room. Jalen Lane, extremely electric, will be a nice addition into that wide receiver room if they decide to go that route. Dylan Fairchild, offensive guard, I think he could go higher than this. Denver, nice find for them. And I think that this draft really works out nice for Denver with how it went. Kansas City running back, going to get Jaden Blue, a guy who I was thinking to Kansas City that they might like. Probably going to be their Kansas City's early replacement for McKinnon would be, I think, what he could be. And I think that he could get some... I like him. I like him as a runner as well. That's not like considered his big strength, but that's part of the reason I'm high on him. I actually like his running ability. Just hasn't done a whole lot of it. Some room to grow. Tez Johnson, wide receiver, going to Baltimore. Different type there. Los Angeles Chargers continue to add to that defensive front now after going offense more than maybe they should have early. And Ashton Gelati out of Louisville. Chase Lunt going here from Connecticut. Offensive line could be guard, could be tackle. They need a little bit of both potentially there in Jacksonville, so it works out. Interior defensive lineman Shamar Turner. This is a consensus pick. Actually, finally, I pretty much lined up with consensus on this one, but a lot of teams are looking at Shamar Turner out of Texas A&M, one of the other guys there on that defensive line. Los Angeles Rams end up getting him. I think a nice fit there as well for them. Wide receiver Isaac Tesla, I talked about him a little bit ago. The other guy in Arkansas, similar body types. A lot of people like Tesla more than Andrew. And I don't blame him. I like Tesla a lot too. So Washington getting themselves a little something different there in the wide receiver room. Marcus Harris, cornerback, going to Baltimore. That's a deep reach. According to consensus, my guy out of California. I'm a really big fan of him. Caleb Rogers, offensive guard, going to Texas Tech. Out of Texas Tech, going to Detroit. Savion Williams, wide receiver, TCU. I think he could definitely go much earlier in the draft than this. Going to New Orleans here. I was kind of like trying to pit him with, I think Pittsburgh is a team that could take him, Denver, but Denver ends up going with a different route. So he kind of fell because I was a little bit trying to manufacture his touches. I was trying to manufacture where he would go, but at this point in the draft, I was just like, whatever the next team is that's either had a 30 visit with him or I just see the fit with. And once I came to that conclusion, this was the next team up for that. So New Orleans taking Savion Williams here, and they need help in that wide receiver room, big body. I know a lot of people look at him as a running back, just like a wide receiver gadget guy. I think he has potential as a wide receiver. That just needs some development yet. But, New Orleans, they're not in that Super Bowl window, I don't think, right now anyway. So we can let them develop. Dorian Strong, cornerback, going to Buffalo. Another one of those, more so a consensus type of pick, but also I think a nice fit for Buffalo given the cornerbacks that were available. Elijah Roberts, edge rusher, going to Kansas City, kind of a big guy. I don't know that he's a perfect fit for them, but also, you can use him in different packages, and Kansas City's really good with doing that along their defensive line. So, and I think that they did. He is a top 30 visit for them, a 30 visit. Philadelphia running back Brashard Smith. I kind of forgot a little bit about their investment in that running back room when I made this last offseason, but they didn't get a lot out of that. Wasn't a guy who I was very high on, so maybe they're already prepared to move on. And Brashard Smith is kind of this year's Tyrone, the New York Giants guy who was a wide receiver to running back convert as well. But I actually think Brashard Smith is further ahead than he was coming out. Tyrone, why can't I remember his name? Lathan Ransom, safety, getting two safeties here, more secondary help for Miami. They need it, and Lathan Ransom, I think, definitely fits what they're looking to add into that room. Opposite Makuba, there's like polar opposites. Lathan Ransom's your strong safety. Makuba's your free safety. It's a very throwback style of defense in terms of one of them being one of them being the other only, kind of. But I think you add the two together, and that's what you're looking for in terms of how you're going to, utilize both of them. Mick Williams, my guy in this class. I think he's a Mina Kimes, my guy. Baltimore, he's other people's my guy. I think E.J. Snyder likes him. Going to Baltimore here, a really, really nice fit out of UCF. I like that. And once again, I think a nice fit there for Baltimore. I think maybe I gave him two different cornerback types of prospects. I think I gave him another cornerback in this draft. And then Sean Dolak, linebacker, getting a lot of the my guy linebackers out here in the fourth round to Seattle. wonderful fit. Really like a lot of these linebackers. You check out that video on those guys, or check these guys out. Their highlight videos are out there on YouTube and stuff. And to wrap up this video, to wrap up the 4th round, Bashal Tutin going to San Francisco, running back. There's a lot of picks that I could have gone with here, but this is one of the, it feels so San Francisco to get one of these ultra fast slash and go running backs, 3rd, 4th round for San Francisco. I mean, duh. Obviously, this is what's going to happen if he's still available here. So there we go. That is it for this mock draft. I hope you enjoyed everything so very much. A lot of preparation went into this. Go check out the article that we're on here. It's up on the website as well. First round, if you missed it, I did pop up early on in the video if you skipped ahead immediately and you're wondering what heck happened to that first round. And once again, you can see some longer descriptions there. All these links in the description to a lot of different things, so check that out if you like to see, like after the draft, which I will be live for, by the way. I will you can watch if you don't make it to the draft or whatever, you want to see some opinions on the strengths, weaknesses, some notes on players that you drafted. I do have all that available up on Discord. Links down in the description to that, so you can go check out my scouting reports on these guys. That's it. Peace out. Have a good one. Hope to see you. I'll be live for the draft, so I hope to see you there. Any of the 3 days, come visit me here on YouTube. Bye bye.